Greetings and salutations, people of the internet. Austin here. As I mentioned in the last video, we're doing something a bit different today. Since we've reached a milestone on this channel in a sense, as I've covered 10 whole Fakemon regions, since that's a big accomplishment on my part, I wanted to do something to celebrate with something I haven't done yet. A tier list! Since I love doing cross-gen evolutions, I'm going to be ranking every cross-gen evolution showcased on this channel so far from the past 10 regions I've done breakdowns on. Full-on evolutions and split evolutions are fair game, but only for official Pokemon. None of my own for simplicity. I'm going to be going in regional orders, so Sydine to Nacton. To make things easier, I'll have timestamps so you can go to the region you actually care about. So, without further ado, let's begin. These entries are going to be quick and to the point since I want this to be a relatively easy video. In terms of Dawn Crow, this honestly could pass for a Mega Evolutions with a few tweaks since I don't think I changed enough from Haunch Crow with this evolution. That being said, I don't think this is a bad design. I do like the prevalence of white on this design, the vague suit patterns on the chest, and the more tired expression on the face. A few tweaks and a repose could have made this Pokemon a lot better, but it's a solid start to the list. Throwing this guy in the B tier. Tied for the weakest evolution of the region, I think I could have done this a lot better now. A lot of the issues I have with this design lies with the face. I just don't think it looks very good. Maybe if I had kept more of the white from Oranguru in this design, it would have felt more like a natural progression. I also could have done something more interesting with the didgeridoo. I don't think this is a terrible evolution, but it is mid as hell, unfortunately. Throwing this in the C tier. Thankfully, this one is considerably better than its counterpart in every single way. Unlike with Oranguru, I think this Pokemon doesn't need the white fur from Passimian to feel like a natural evolution. Other than making the eyes stand out a bit more, since they kind of get lost in this render, I don't think I would change a thing about this Pokemon. Well, outside of a re-render, but that's the case with everything before I started adding texture to most of my Fakemon, so that one's not completely fair. Anywho, throwing this in the B tier. This one was almost an S tier evolution, but I think I needed to play with the proportions a bit more. The heads should have been bigger compared to the legs. The current proportions make them feel a bit more squashed than I would like. Otherwise, this is easily one of my favorite evolutions in my catalog. I love the multicolored heads and legs. I think that is the best part of the design, personally. A very, very high A tier Pokemon. Another near S-tier evolution. The only reason I don't put this Pokemon in that tier, despite really liking that design, is that compared to the Pokemon that are going to be going in that tier, I don't think it measures up as a personal favorite. That aside, I love this Pokemon a lot. Corsola needed some major love, and I was happy to give it its due in the second pass of the Sydine region. I still can't believe I didn't do a Great Barrier Reef mod in the first pass of this region. God, I was stupid. Happily putting this in the A tier. If I had used the OG version of this Pokemon, this would have been in D tier easily. Thankfully, I am using the considerably better redesign from the second pass. This version fares a lot better as both an evolution and just as a design in general. The dark blue and gold go really well together, and the ears and tail help create a really nice silhouette. Only reason this isn't higher is because some of the other evolutions just outclass it, and yada yada render. Throwing this in the B tier. The weakest evolution in my catalog, debatably anyway. I think this design is just okay, but the issue is that the pose is boring. The OG version was a worse design in every way, but damn it, it did have a more interesting pose. Granted, the perspective on said pose was terrible, but I digress. I really like the colors on this Pokemon, even if the purple of the eyes could stand to be a bit brighter, especially with the sky blue of the body. Not a terrible Pokemon, it's just the least good of the bunch. Just skipping out on D tier, I gotta throw this guy in C. Let the record show, I really don't care for Squawkabilly, so I took it upon myself to try and redeem it in my eyes with this evolution. I love the pose and silhouette for this Pokemon. I think it shows a lot of personality. As much as I didn't want to do the color variations, I am glad I did so after the fact. They do help out a lot. As for why this isn't in the S tier if I like it so much, simple. The S tier evolutions are just too good to be in the same tier as with this Pokemon. So I gotta throw it in the A tier. Not even a question in my mind, this was a top tier evolution. Easily in my top 5 favorites. This Pokemon could probably use another pass now that I've improved since I did this DLC, but I am so happy with the overall package. I love the pose for this Pokemon, even if the perspective on the legs isn't the greatest in hindsight. The shiny just slaps so damn hard. I will forever love this Pokemon. Easy S tier. A solid split evolution for Ekans, even if the first pass was meant to be an Arbok evolution that just didn't pan out. The tail does the heavy lifting for the design, in contrast to help balance the overall package out. I'm not angry with the design, I just know I can do better nowadays. The shiny sucks. I don't know what the hell I was actually thinking. Automatically cemented it in B tier because of that shiny. Easily one of my favorite evolutions of the region. I love everything about this design. I am so happy I added this in the second pass of the Texken region, especially being one of the few sound-type Pokemon on this list. This took a few attempts to iron out everything, but damn it, it was more than worth it. A top-tier Pokemon and an easy S tier. A good evolution on the cusp of being a great evolution. I think a better pose would have really catapulted this design into the S tier. However, as it is currently, it is just on the cusp. I'm also not super jazzed about the shiny looking back on it, so that holds it back from S tier in my opinion. I also think I could have made the stem/horns a bit bigger. As it is, high A tier. Easily my least favorite evolution of the entire region. This is just so meh. Pose is the best thing about it, but I think I should have kept one of the eyes open so it doesn't look so odd with both of them closed. The tail needed more variation in proportions. It just doesn't look enough like the rest of the evolutionary line in my opinion. This desperately needs some love and is going straight in the D tier, I'm afraid. Of the next two evolutions I added on the whim, this is the lesser of the two, but I'm not angry looking at it like I am with Pamperlot. The pose and proportions are solid. I don't hate the color scheme, and I really like the name. I just think I could have made it in line with the rest of the evolutionary line better, and made this more of a 3/4 view versus the profile view it's in now. A redraw would do wonders. Would probably bump it up to B tier. But since that hasn't happened yet, I am throwing this in the C tier. I really like this one a lot. The only reason it's not in A tier is that the others in that tier are just flat out better than this one. I really love the fist tail, a good focal point for the design overall. The red could probably use more contrast to the rest of the color scheme, but it's pretty good as it is. I do wish I made the eye its own color to stand out more. That was a missed opportunity. Anywho, throwing this little guy in the B tier. Still, to this day, one of my favorite evolutions. The updated render really helped propel this Pokemon into the absolute best of the best. I love how different this Pokemon is to Minior, but still identifiable as an evolution. The little Minior around it for scale I think does a lot for the design. I am so happy with this Pokemon. Easy S tier. One of the better AEvolutions in my catalog, this Pokemon has gone through a lot of development over the years. If I had gone with the first draft of this Pokemon, this would be the only F tier in this video. Thankfully, I am going with the current version, so I don't have to disrespect my sad ghosty baby here. I think the render could have been better, otherwise this would have been an S tier Pokemon. This is just a meh design overall. I think I could have made it a more coherent Poison-type evolution now instead of the hodgepodge that this Pokemon is currently. That being said, I do like the colors and personality of this Pokemon. That's what's keeping this out of D tier, barely. But gotta throw it in C because I can't go any higher, reasonably. Solid evolutions, all things considered, even if I do plan for this to be a split evolution down the line. We'll eventually get there, whenever the hell I get there. For what I wanted to do with this Pokemon, I am overall very happy with it. The render took me a long time, but it was worth it since this has one of the stronger renders on this list. With that, going in the B tier. One of the best new evolutions added to the Vanik reboot. This is my favorite evolution of the entire region. This took a few drafts, but damn it, I couldn't be happier with it. The colors, the pose, the silhouette, it all came together to create an absolute top-tier menace of a Pokemon. Easy S tier. This was almost an S tier design, but I think the pose is holding this one back more than I initially thought. I still really love it. I don't think I have a bad evolution in the Vanik reboot. But this isn't an S tier Pokemon at the moment. It is damn close, though. The only thing holding this design back from being an S tier evolution is the fact I didn't add eyes to the Flytrap arms. I think that would have made this a top tier Pokemon overall. So close to perfection, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So, I gotta throw this bad boy in A tier. If it wasn't apparent, I think the Vanik region has the strongest batch of new evolutions on average, only rivaled by the Nacton region. The redesign did wonders for this Pokemon with the updated pose and color contrast. I was going to put this in the A tier, but the Mega Evolution helped push this Pokemon over the edge into S tier. This one gave me the hardest time out of this batch of evolutions, but I also feel like it was the most needed evolution of the new batch added to the reboot. This has such a strong silhouette and personality with that smarmy ass face. The giant nose and claw really help make this Pokemon distinctive to the rest of the evolutionary line. Another solid S tier Pokemon. A good example of a great Pokemon, but not good enough to be placed in S tier. Just being right on the cusp. A few minor details hold this Pokemon back, but the overall upgrade from the OG version cannot be overlooked. A fantastic Pokemon, but I am putting it in A tier. The render is the only thing holding this Pokemon back on a second look. The shadows are way too dark on the cream fur sections of the body. Otherwise, this has a really good silhouette, a good amount of details, and I think it progresses the overall line in a semi-natural way. I think the gold and the splash of blue really pop against the rest of the color scheme. Happily, gonna put it in the A tier. The most difficult of the new evolutions added to the reboot. This Pokemon was worth the hell it gave me. I love the color palette for this Pokemon. The gold and red really pop against the metal of the rest of the body. Once again, this is a Pokemon that I just don't love as much as the others in S tier, so A tier it goes. The proportions are the biggest thing holding this Pokemon back, mainly with the legs, I feel in hindsight. The ectoplasm on the torso could have used a touch more shape variation for a better silhouette. Thankfully, I really like the overall design. A good redraw could really do some wonders for this Pokemon, so B tier it goes. My favorite new evolution added to the region. The only thing holding this Pokemon back is that it's not at a 3/4 view. Otherwise, I have no complaints about it whatsoever. It is an easy S-tier Pokemon, even more so with the Mega taken into account. A solid evolution for Chatot. I think I may have made this Pokemon too busy design-wise for its own good, and as a result, it's a little messy. While certainly an improvement over the first attempt, I think this needs some tweaks here and there to help it be more coherent. Middle of the pack, B-tier Pokemon. The biggest thing holding back this design is the render on the wings, mainly with the membrane. I don't think that the sticky, gooey nature comes through enough with the current render, and damn it, that's a shame. This has a really simple and effective silhouette, but I think a few minor things could have made it better. This Pokemon is nowhere near as cool as Hydrapple, so I gotta put it in B tier. This one I don't feel changed enough from Appleton in hindsight. I think it needed a few more differences to really make it its own. But the overall design is still really good, especially the catapult tail. That's a lot of fun. Render on the whipped cream definitely could have been done better. Like its counterpart, this goes to B tier. Dramatically better than the first draft, this still pales in comparison to the vastly superior Toxicroak. I am not mad at this evolution at all, but it's not the same tier as the A or S tier designs so far, so I have to keep the B train rolling. I think another pass or a Mega evolution could really help sort out the issues I have with this design. The weakest design new evolution from the Amalop region, this doesn't change enough from Pinchurchin, in my opinion. I wish I'd given it more of a secondary concept to the design besides big spiky urchin with rock armor. Thankfully, the second pass here moved the overall design from D to C. A damn near perfect execution of what I want to do for Atropius evolutions. I have no major notes regarding this Pokemon. I love the shading on this Pokemon more than any others in this section. Easily the highlight here. A super deserved S tier Pokemon. I love the design so much. The colors, the silhouette, everything came together so nicely. The kelp bubble idea gave it to me really helped save this evolution since it would not be nearly as good without it. Another easy S tier Pokemon. The most polarizing evolution from this region, this DLC edition has gotten more flack than the rest by far. A good amount of people feel this doesn't resemble the rest of the line enough, or it works better as a Paradox Pokemon. On some level, they're probably right, but I still really like this Pokemon. Another pass to make it more in line with the rest of the evolutionary line might knock it up a grade. But as it is, B tier it goes. As much as I would love to cover the recently redesigned versions of the Kyria Preserve evolutions, I cannot do that as I haven't covered them on the channel. I'll be coming later in the year, but since I don't want to delay this video, I'm going to have to go with the OG versions no matter how brutally I'm going to have to rip into them. That being said, this is just a mess split evolution overall, at least here. There isn't enough color contrast, the render on the ectoplasm needed work, and the central disc and gem just looks like crap. The concept and the overall package is barely keeping this out of D tier. So I gotta throw it into the lowest C so far in the video. Oh, I hate this design so much. I am tired of all of my crab Pokemon essentially being a variant of a Fiddler Crab, with this easily being the worst of the bunch. The idea is fun, and the colors are solid, but everything else is a massive disappointment on every level. Thank God for the redesign, picking up this thing's slack. But as the original is concerned, D tier all the way. Despite the horrible leg placement, this is still the strongest evolution of the OG Kyria Preserve. I think it has a solid silhouette, a good color palette, and it's just an overall solid design. This is the lowest B I can give, however, right on the cusping the top of C. The redesign is a lot better, but we'll cross that bridge later this year. Outside of the head looking awkward and the colors not changing enough from Octillery, I do have a soft spot for this design. Despite that, however, I can't give it any higher than a C. The glow effect on the body is awful. The pose isn't interesting, and it doesn't change enough as a final evolution. A good foundation to work off of, but that's about it. The biggest issue with this design is that it doesn't change enough from Eevee, despite being the normal evolution for this line. The proportions in the silhouette are just too dull, too safe. I didn't experiment enough to really make this Pokemon more of its own identity like I did with the others. It was thankfully an easy fix, but that doesn't help this design in hindsight, so it's going to go in B tier. The pose and the eye color are the biggest thing holding this Pokemon back from being really, really good. This doesn't feel threatening enough for the vibe I wanted it to have, and the lack of color contrast makes the palette feel really limited. The proportions also needed a tweak, if just to give it a little bit more of an identity. A solid B tier, just like its counterpart. My favorite evolution from this region, both versions of this Pokemon came out wonderfully in my opinion. All of these Pokemon just need an update with my current render style to really make them pop. As they are currently, I'm putting them happily in the middle of A tier. This one really hurts to do, as I love Seviper. It's my favorite Pokemon, but this evolution is mid as fuck. As you saw in the last video, I've done a mining ground poison snake so much better than the last time I did here. This Pokemon needs a new design focal point. The overall design is fine, but the pose and the drill tail have gotta go. Until I can redesign this Pokemon, sadly, I gotta put this thing in low C tier. I'm not mean enough to put it in D tier. No beating around the bush. This evolution sucks. Outside of the lore and the typing, this evolution is a giant pile of meh execution, an uninteresting pose, and lackluster proportions. The color scheme is the only good thing about this Pokemon. This is going to need such a major rework down the line to iron out all the kinks. Get your furry ass in D tier. Really happy with this Pokemon. The only thing holding it back is the boring pose and the render on the Lightning Mane. Like Manticore, this just needs a redraw to really make it pop. Maybe be a bit of a more of a 3/4 view, but I don't know if that's entirely necessary. As it is currently, low A tier is where I have to put this Pokemon. Oh, I hate this design. Compared to the peak that is Overquill, this design sucks on almost every level. The proportions aren't pushed far enough, the spike placement is terrible, the colors are just boring. Other than the addition of the pink and the pattern on the tail, I might have put this in the F tier. But this Pokemon is close! Get in D tier, you overinflated disappointment. Outside of just needing more color contrast, a slightly better pose, and the rolled up tail section being a touch too small, this is easily my second favorite evolution of the region. I love how everything came together with this Pokemon. I just need to work out the kinks and this will be perfect. To the A tier, my scaly friend. A solid end to this section. This evolution doesn't have a whole lot wrong with it per se, but I feel like the pose kind of holds it back. It's too generic to sell any real personality, and the render of the ectoplasmic bow is underwhelming. Again, another Pokemon that will really benefit from a redraw. As it is, gotta put you in B tier. Easily the best evolution of the Mihan region. The only real flaw in this design that is The only real flaw in the design is that the blue doesn't have enough contrast with the rest of the color scheme. Regardless of that little error, this is a fantastic evolution for male Combi. Shocked, I'm rating a ghost type highly. Slap this boy in the S tier. Just shy of being an S tier design. The cluttered nature of this design, thanks to the fire antenna and the firecracker legs, makes it a little hard to make out at a glance. Simply changing the antenna colors to blue would fix all the major issues I have with this design currently. As it stands, this is a high A tier Pokemon. Outside of pushing more of the proportions and colors, the biggest issue with this design is just the pose. It's too generic. Still, I'm not angry with it, but it's just a simple B tier evolution. This Pokemon. Since this was before the sound type was part of my regions, I made this part fighting type to give Kricketune a little bit more of an identity. Now, this would just be a split evolution, with a proper bug sound evolution in the future being the main one you would see. This isn't a terrible design, but it needs a redraw stat to fix the issues. This is a high C, low B tier Pokemon, but it's still ending up in C. I really need to update the render and proportions of this Pokemon since it doesn't change enough from cloth, in my opinion. The colors and the overall idea work really well, so this stays out of C tier, but no higher than B as it is. The absolute worst evolution in my catalog. Outside of the idea, this Pokemon fails on every level. This is going to take a heavy redesign to fix the plethora of issues plaguing this Pokemon. Get your ass in the D tier next to Quillhaka. Honestly, the biggest issue with this one is the lack of texture and some of the line work. Otherwise, this is a really solid evolution, though the shiny could use a little bit of love. Solid B tier Pokemon. The colors and the overall design is serviceable, but the pose and proportions kill this design for me. I did start on a redesign on a whim, but y'all won't see that until the Mihan reboot way down the line. C is the best I can give this version of Kyria. A lot. So much so if the render was better, this would have been an easy S tier design. Alas, that is not the case, and A tier is where I have to slot it until I can eventually fix it down the line. But hey, not a bad start to the Athnos region, all things considered. The render on the ectoplasm needs a little bit of a touch-up. It looks a bit too plain for my liking nowadays. I really do like the silhouette and the overall colors, though. This almost made it to A tier, but some of the issues I have are greater than those I have Atlas Sect, so I gotta slot this in the B tier. But with a few tweaks, this could be an easy A tier. I won't beat around the bush. The pose is super boring and is massively holding this design back. More dynamic pose will easily skyrocket this into S tier. But I really like everything else about this, so this is going to join the others in A tier happily. No notes whatsoever. This is a perfect evolution in my opinion, considering the ridiculous evolution method I gave it. I wouldn't change a thing about this design outside of the render, but that's across the board. S tier, baby! I don't think I pushed this design far enough, both in colors and in pose. The idea and overall design are fine, but this needed another pass to iron out the kinks. As it is, currently, B tier we go. Now, a lot of this is bias. I am acknowledging this now, but I can't give this thing anything less than S tier. Should it probably be an A tier? Yeah, but that's not going to stop me from being a biased little shit. slap this Chad in the S tier where it belongs. The render on the clouds, and the fact I think I could have pushed the facial hair more, lands this couple slots down from its full potential. This was never going to be an S tier Pokemon, but I think it could have made it into the A tier with some work. We'll see in the future. As it is currently, low B tier for now. Admittingly, I could have changed this design up more to be more distinct from Furfrou, but I am happy with them overall. A splash more red than the design might have done it some good. Anyway, this isn't in the S tier only because that tier is stacked, so they are going to get very comfy in the A tier. Speaking of S tier, this Pokemon is damn near perfect in every way. I love this Pokemon so much. Easily my favorite evolution of the base region. It was a pain to design, but this was worth it. You know where this is gonna go. Slap this bad boy in S. I think I could have pushed this further. Maybe add another set of legs. I definitely want to change the color scheme to be more unique. Still, I love the dragonfly motif, but it needs some work to push it to its full potential. Gotta put this in C tier, sadly. The horrible render on this Pokemon is the major thing holding this back. The shading is just awful. Otherwise, the silhouette and the idea is very strong. A good B tier Pokemon in evolution. While not as peak as Armarouge and Cerulege, I do think this Pokemon fits very well in that family. The shiny actually changing helps a lot in making this Pokemon more unique. The render on the fire could have been done better, so this is going to go in the A tier until I potentially fix it down the line. I don't know if I'm ever going to redo DLC expansions. That might be an interesting experiment. This was a tough one. Bruxish is a difficult Pokemon to give an evolution to that isn't an eel or straight up anglerfish. I am overall happy with this Pokemon, but another pass could have maybe helped it be a bit better. So I'm going to slot this in the B tier. One of my favorite evolutions, period. I love how this Pokemon came out. I already liked Clawitzer, and this evolution made it 10 times better in my eyes. Is that egotistical? A bit, yeah. But ego aside, I love the dragon aspects and playing around with the scale of the Pokemon. Another S tier evolution. Speaking of S tiers, spoilers, this took more work than Clarmada, but was more than worth it. Spidops definitely needs the help, and if Game Freak ever deems it necessary to give it an evolution, I only hope mine is as close to being that good. This sneaky ninja was a necessary evolution. So it crawls its way up there with the big dogs. A fitting Pokemon to end off the Athnos section. Kicking off the Oncouv region with a solid evolution, my biggest concern is that it doesn't change enough from Granbull, both in design and colors. I think the main fur color could have been more distinct comparatively, but flaws aside, this is a good Pokemon, so I'm going to slap this in the B tier. The pose is the only thing holding this absolute unit back. It's too boring, for lack of a more interesting insult. The rest of the design is fire, ironically. A repose will easily put this in the S tier, but as it is, B tier is where it shall reside. The weakest evolution of the region, I had a really hard time to come up with a concept for this Pokemon, and I ended up taking the easy route you see here. For being a basic bitch idea, it's executed well enough, but I don't know, I could have pushed it further. So I'm going to throw this in the B tier. It's borderline C, though. This chonky doggo is only held back by the render, specifically on the waffle breastplate. That just looks awful. Otherwise, this came out fantastically. I really love the silhouette here, mainly with the pancake stack for the hat. A very high A tier is deserving in my eyes for this Pokemon. The placement and the render of the iceberg shields definitely need some work to really sell the idea. I don't think it glows enough to really show off the ESP, not helped at all by the lack of a recolored outline. Because of that, I can't put it any higher than B tier, but it has the potential to be a very high A tier. Like with Iceberg, the render on the ice is the biggest issue with this design. Another pass will iron that out very, very easily, so it's not as bad of an issue than with its counterpart. Because of this can rest easily in the A tier. The render definitely needs a touch-up, but I don't think it would actually push it a higher grade. I think it's going to stay in A tier regardless. This is just a good design all around, even if the lower body does feel a bit under-designed comparatively. You already know it's going in the A tier, so let's quit beating around the bush. The concept, colors, and silhouette are very fun, but I think this Pokemon is a touch too crop duster shaped and not enough resembling Hedora/Muck. A simple redesign for the shape of the torso would fix this up nicely. I have to put this in the B tier, but has the potential to be a very high A tier. The final evolution. This is easily the best one of the bunch. I love how this Pokemon came out. From the concept to execution, I wouldn't change a damn thing about it. The easiest S tier I can give. Such a good sticky pupper, and a fun one to end off the Oncouv region. While I do love this Pokemon's design, the pose is what catapults it higher than what it probably should be. I couldn't resist the Sentai pose, just like the Tokusect. There maybe could have been more blue in the design. That bit's debatable. Regardless, the Nacton is starting off strong with an S tier Pokemon. As a much needed evolution for Ariados, this was a lot of fun to work on. I think basing it off of an Ushioni was a really unique choice, and I'm really glad I did so. A slightly more interesting pose probably could have catapulted this into the S tier, but a high A tier isn't anything to scoff at. I have no notes for this Pokemon. It's tied for being my favorite evolution of this region alongside Satsusect. Silhouette is probably the strongest one out of this bunch. It has such a strong design and color palette, too. It is just a fun evolution to work on. Easy S tier Pokemon. It's only in this tier because the A and S tier are just too good for Motocycle to be any higher. I still have a very high opinion of this Pokemon despite that. The competition was just too stiff to go any higher. The weakest designed evolution of the region easily. This isn't a bad Pokemon in the slightest, despite me saying that. This Pokemon was almost in the C tier until I took a second look at the design and decided it didn't deserve to be in there. This is just an okay evolution overall. I am glad I made it because Sunflora needs the power boost. And I didn't want to do Grass Fire. This is the bottom of B tier, however. Easily the most difficult evolution of the Nacton region. This Pokemon turned out good for the most part in the end. I think it doesn't rank as high as I would like due to some of the elements I wanted to include not working out and having to scrap them. If I ever get the chance to do a Mega Evolution for this Pokemon, I think that'll raise the score for Hippoasis in a big way. As it is, I can't go any higher than the B tier. The final evolution we'll be covering today, this is a good one to end off on. I think this is a damn good evolution for Smeargle. The only thing holding this back is the lack of any real texture on the body. It kind of looks just too clean. Otherwise, I love the pose, I love the color palette, and the overall package. We're ending off on a high note with the final A tier Pokemon. Okay, this took way longer than I expected. Par for the course at this point. I don't plan on making tier lists a frequent thing, just every once in a while video. Still, this was a fun little break after the monster of a video that the Nacton breakdown was. I left a link in the description to this tier maker if y'all want to make your own. If you want to shoot them my way on Blue Sky, I'd love to see them. Otherwise, just give me a brief overview on what you would rank a few of them in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. I want to try and hit 500 subs by the end of the year. We're getting pretty close every day, but that little extra kick would help me greatly. Next time, strange occurrences are happening in the Zenya region. Long-dead Pokémon are seemingly being plucked from the past and thrown into the present. We'll go over all of them when I talk about my second Legends project, Pokémon Legends Carthnew. This is Austin, signing out.